I arrived at the boardroom 30 minutes early that Tuesday morning, carrying my laptop with the presentation I had spent 6 months perfecting. My hands were shaking with excitement. This was it, the moment that would change everything. But when I pushed open those glass doors, I found my boss Derek already there, my presentation loaded on the screen with his name on every single slide. When I opened my mouth to protest, he stepped in front of the doorway, blocking me physically, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. "You need to watch and learn," he said coldly. "This is how real professionals handle million-dollar deals. Now sit in the back and keep your mouth shut or clean out your desk." The shock hit me like ice water. I stood there frozen, staring at Derek's back as he adjusted his tie in the reflection of the presentation screen. My presentation, my algorithm, my 6 months of late nights and weekend research, all displayed under his name. "Derek?" I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing?" He did not even turn around. "Taking care of business, Catalina. Something you clearly are not ready for. Now either take a seat in the back corner or leave the building entirely. Your choice." My mind raced through options. Storm out and file a complaint. Stay and document everything. Call someone, but who? The investors would be here in 5 minutes. I felt my colleague Sarah's hand on my arm, gently guiding me toward the back row of chairs. "Just sit," she whispered. "Do not make a scene, please." So Saturday, and I watched Derek steal everything I had worked for. The 3 investors arrived exactly on time. 2 men in expensive suits, their names already a blur through my anger, and 1 woman taking notes on a tablet, her expression sharp and evaluating. I did not know then how important she would become. Derek launched into the pitch with the confidence of someone who believed his own lies. He gestured at the sustainable supply chain algorithm displayed on the screen, explaining the revolutionary approach to reducing carbon emissions while optimizing delivery routes. Those were my words, my research, my innovation. The investors leaned forward, clearly impressed. One of them asked about the technical implementation, and I watched Derek stumble slightly. He recovered by saying, "Well, my team handled the detailed coding work, but the vision and strategy were all mine. I recognized the inefficiencies in current systems and developed this comprehensive solution." My nails dug into my palms. Team. As if I had not been the one writing every line of code, testing every variable, refining every calculation. The presentation continued for 45 minutes. Derek fielded questions, some by deflecting to vague business speak. He name-dropped his MBA from a prestigious university 3 times. He referenced his innovative thinking and strategic vision at least a dozen times. The investors ate it up. When it ended, they shook Derek's hand enthusiastically. "Brilliant work," one said. "We will have our decision by end of week, but I can tell you this is exactly the kind of forward-thinking project we want to fund." Derek's smile could have lit up the room. "Thank you, gentlemen. And ma'am," he added, nodding to the woman investor. "I look forward to partnering with you." The investors filed out, still discussing the project's potential in excited tones. I remained in my seat, unable to move, watching Derek pack up the laptop. My laptop. The moment the door closed, he turned to me. "That went well, did not it?" His tone dripped condescension. I stood up, my legs unsteady. "You stole 6 months of my work." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Prove it, Catalina. Every file on the shared drive shows my name as the creator. Your local copies, I made sure those got corrupted this morning. Unfortunate technical glitch. And if you check your email history, you will find I have been leading this project from the beginning." I rushed back to my desk, Derek following at a leisurely pace. I pulled up the shared drive, clicking through folders with increasingly frantic movements. He was right. Every single file now listed Derek as the original author. The timestamps had been altered. Documents I had created 3 months ago now showed creation dates from 6 months ago under his credentials. My hands trembled as I checked my local backup folder. Corrupted. Every file. I had 1 USB drive at home with an older version from 2 months ago, but it was missing the crucial final algorithm refinements that made the project revolutionary. Sarah appeared beside my desk, her voice low. "Catalina, I need to tell you something. He did this to Janet last year. She tried to fight back. She does not work here anymore. What happened to her? Sarah glanced around nervously. She made complaints to HR. She tried to prove the work was hers. But Derek had covered his tracks. Eventually they pushed her out, made her life so miserable she had to quit. The pieces started falling into place. Derek had been planning this for weeks, maybe months, copying my files, resaving them under his credentials, using his administrator access to alter cloud backup logs. He had systematically erased me from my own work. Sarah squeezed my arm. I am sorry. I watched you build this project. I know it is yours. But Derek has CEO Andrew's complete trust. Andrew promoted him 6 months ago over 3 other candidates who were more qualified. They are close. That afternoon, Derek called a team celebration meeting. Everyone gathered in the conference room, fake smiles plastered on their faces. I stood in the back, arms crossed. Great news, everyone, Derek announced. The pitch was a success. We have secured $12 million in funding for the Sustainable Supply Chain Project. This is a testament to strong leadership and innovative vision. People clapped. I felt sick. Derek continued. Unfortunately, in any growing team, we sometimes discover that certain members are not pulling their weight. Performance issues become apparent. As we move forward with this funding, we need to make sure everyone on the team is contributing at the highest level. His eyes found mine across the room. Catalina has been missing deadlines and making errors in her work. We will be restructuring her role to better suit her capabilities. The room fell silent. My colleagues would not meet my gaze. Effective immediately, Catalina will be reassigned from the Sustainable Supply Chain Project. She will be transitioning to data entry and administrative support while we evaluate her performance. My face burned. Data entry. From lead developer to administrative support. By the end of the day, my keycard access to the research lab had been revoked. My email access to investor communications was removed. I was moved to a different desk away from my team, away from the project I had created. I sat at my new desk that evening, after everyone else had left, staring at my blank computer screen. Derek had not just stolen my work. He was erasing me entirely, and I had almost no evidence to fight back. I spent the next 3 days barely sleeping, documenting everything I could remember. I filled a notebook with detailed descriptions of my work process, the evolution of the algorithm-specific conversations where I had presented ideas to Derek. I had that outdated USB file with the partial algorithm. I had my handwritten notes from months of research. I had screenshots of my personal calendar showing late nights and weekend work sessions. Most importantly, I found 2 emails from 4 months ago where I had outlined key concepts to Derek, but as I reread them, my heart sank. They were vague, written in the tone of someone seeking guidance from a supervisor. He could easily argue I was asking for his direction, not presenting my own ideas. I reached out to Brian, another colleague, who had attended several of my working sessions. I met him for coffee at a shop 3 blocks from the office. Brian, you were there when I presented the carbon offset calculation model. You saw me working through the logistics optimization. I need you to back me up. He stirred his coffee, not meeting my eyes. Catalina, I am really sorry about what is happening. It is not right. Will you tell HR what you saw? He was quiet for a long moment. I have a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage. If I go against Derek, I am out. You see what he is doing to you. I cannot risk it. My chest tightened. I understand. Sarah was the only one who agreed to support me. We met in her car during lunch the next day. I will tell them the truth, she said. I watched you build that algorithm from nothing. I saw you working late every night. Derek barely understood what you were doing until you explained it to him. Thank you, I said, feeling tears prick my eyes. Thank you for not abandoning me. That afternoon, I requested a formal meeting with Linda, the HR director. She agreed to see me the following morning. I walked into Linda's office with my evidence folder organized and labeled. Linda was a woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had always seemed fair, professional. Thank you for meeting with me, I began. I need to report a serious issue regarding intellectual property theft and workplace misconduct. Linda's expression remained neutral. Please go ahead. I laid it all out. Derek had stolen 6 months of my work-altered files to remove my authorship, erased my contributions from company records, and taken credit for my algorithm. I showed her the old USB file, my handwritten notes, the 2 emails from months ago. Linda took notes, her pen moving steadily across her notepad. These are serious allegations, Catalina. I know, but they are true. I can prove this was my work. She reviewed my evidence carefully. The USB file is from 2 months ago. These notes are not dated or time-stamped digitally. These emails could be interpreted multiple ways. But Sarah will testify. She saw everything. Linda closed my folder. We will need to investigate this thoroughly. I will interview Derek, review system access logs, and examine all available evidence. You should expect this process to take at least a week, possibly longer. What happens in the meantime? You continue your work. Do not discuss this with other employees. We take these matters very seriously. I left her office feeling cautiously hopeful. Maybe someone would finally listen. Maybe the system would work. The next morning I was called into a conference room. My stomach dropped when I saw who was waiting. Linda, Derek, CEO, Andrew, and a man in a suit I did not recognize who introduced himself as the company's legal counsel. Please sit down, Catalina, Andrew said. His voice was cold. I sat, my hands clammy. Derek spoke first, his tone wounded. I am deeply hurt that Catalina would make these accusations against me. I have always tried to mentor her to help her develop her skills. This is how she repays that support. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were file logs showing him as the creator of every document, email chains I had never seen, where he supposedly outlined the project vision, and witness statements from 2 colleagues I barely knew, claiming Derek had led all strategy meetings. Then Derek delivered the final blow. I believe Catalina copied my early work onto that USB drive she showed you. She is trying to claim credit for my project because she is struggling with her performance reviews. He produced 3 performance reviews, all marked with concerns about my work quality, my missed deadlines, my inability to work independently. I stared at them in shock. I had never seen these reviews. I had certainly never signed them. The lawyer spoke next. Miss Catalina, do you have any concrete proof that these files were originally created by you? Digital forensics witnesses, contemporaneous documentation? I have my notes, I stammered. Sarah can testify. Your notes are not digitally time-stamped, and I am afraid Sarah has declined to provide testimony after reconsidering her position. My head snapped toward Linda. What? Linda's expression was apologetic. Sarah expressed concerns about the accuracy of her memory. She does not feel comfortable making statements about technical work she did not directly contribute to. Sarah had backed out. Fear had won. Andrew leaned forward. Catalina, I promoted Derek because he consistently demonstrates leadership and innovation. What you are describing sounds like someone struggling to accept accountability for their own performance issues. Making false accusations against your supervisor is a serious violation of company policy. These are not false, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. Linda delivered the verdict. After reviewing the available evidence, we find these accusations to be unsubstantiated and potentially defamatory. Making false claims against a supervisor creates a hostile work environment and violates multiple company policies. You are being placed on formal probation effective immediately. She slid paperwork across the table. A 30-day performance improvement plan, a list of requirements I had to meet to avoid termination. Any further disruptive behavior will result in immediate dismissal, Andrew added. Do you understand? I nodded numbly, signing where they indicated. That afternoon, facilities staff moved me to a cubicle in the basement. No windows, old equipment, isolated from everyone. My new workspace was next to the server room, which hummed constantly. Derek walked past my desk around 5 o'clock when most people had left. He leaned down, his voice barely a whisper. Told you to watch and learn. I stared at my computer screen until his footsteps faded. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. I am so sorry. They told me if I testified for you, they would fire me. I have student loans. I cannot lose this job. Please understand. I understood. I understood that Derek had won. that the system had protected him, that I was now the villain in a story where I was actually the victim. 3 weeks into my probation, I had almost adjusted to the humiliation. Almost. I arrived early, stayed late, kept my head down. I completed my data entry tasks with mechanical precision, trying not to think about the algorithm that should have had my name on it. Then the emergency happened. A company-wide meeting was called at 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Everyone crowded into the main conference room, murmuring nervously. This kind of sudden assembly never meant good news. Andrew stood at the front, his face grave. Derek stood beside him, looking uncharacteristically stressed. That gave me a small, petty surge of satisfaction. "We have a serious situation," Andrew began. "The sustainable supply chain algorithm that we launched to our first client 2 weeks ago has experienced a catastrophic failure. Due to a critical bug in the code, our client lost $200,000 in 1 day from miscalculated routing and inventory projections." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Andrew held up a hand for silence. "The client is threatening legal action. They are demanding a full refund of the implementation fees, which amounts to $500,000. Our investors are demanding answers. We have lawyers reviewing the situation." He paused, and I felt a cold dread building in my stomach. "We have conducted a preliminary investigation into how this happened. It appears that unauthorized changes were made to the code before final deployment. Changes that were subtle enough to pass our standard testing protocols, but would cause systematic failures under real-world conditions." Derek stepped forward. His expression was carefully controlled, but I could see the anger beneath. "Our security team traced these changes back to an account with Catalina's credentials. The modifications were made 3 weeks ago, the night before she was reassigned from the project." Every eye in the room turned to me. I felt my face drain of color. "No," I said loudly. "I have not accessed that system in 3 weeks. I do not even have permissions anymore." Derek's voice was measured, almost sad. "The access logs show otherwise, Catalina. Someone logged in using your credentials at 11:30 p.m. 3 weeks ago and made specific changes to the routing algorithm. Changes that would not be apparent in testing, but would cause exactly the kind of failure we experienced." I stood up my chair, scraping loudly. "I was home that night. I did not remote access anything. I have not touched that code since you stole it from me." The room went silent. I realized too late what I had just said in front of everyone. Andrew's expression hardened. "My office. Now. Derek, Linda, join us." The 4 of us walked to Andrew's office in tense silence. Once the door closed, Andrew turned on me. "Did you just accuse Derek of theft? In front of the entire company?" "Because he did steal it," I said, hearing the desperation in my voice. "That algorithm was mine. He took credit for my work, and now he is trying to frame me for sabotage." Derek shook his head slowly. "This is exactly the pattern of behavior we documented in your probation review. Inability to accept responsibility, deflection, making wild accusations." Linda pulled up something on her tablet. "The IT logs are clear, Catalina. Your credentials were used to access the code repository at 11:27 p.m. on the night in question. The changes were made over a 40-minute period. Can anyone verify your location during that time?" "I live alone. I was home, probably asleep. How can I prove I was not doing something?" Derek leaned forward, his voice gentle, as if talking to a confused child. "Catalina, I think you have been under a lot of stress. The probation, the role change. Maybe you made these changes in a moment of anger and do not fully remember it." "I would never sabotage my own work," I said, but even I could hear how weak that sounded. Andrew stood. "This is beyond an HR issue now. This is potentially criminal. We are considering involving law enforcement for corporate sabotage and computer fraud." My blood ran cold. "Criminal charges. You are suspended immediately without pay pending the outcome of our investigation and legal review. You have 72 hours before we make a final decision about pressing charges. In the meantime, surrender your keycard and any company property." Linda held out her hand. I removed my keycard with shaking fingers and placed it in her palm. I walked out of that building in a daze. Behind me I could hear colleagues whispering, "Did you hear Catalina sabotage the code?" She cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. By the time I reached my car, I was shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. That night I could not sleep. I kept running through everything in my mind. Someone had used my credentials, but how I had never given anyone my password. Could Derek have stolen it somehow? Used keylogger software. But even if I could prove that, who would believe me now? Around 2 in the morning, I remembered something Sarah had said weeks ago. He did this to Janet last year. I grabbed my laptop and searched LinkedIn for Janet. Her last name was Thompson. I found her profile. She had left the company 15 months ago and was now working for a competitor in Dallas. I sent her a message, my fingers flying over the keys. My name is Catalina. I work or worked at the company you left. Derek is doing to me exactly what I think he did to you. Please, if you know anything, I need help. I hit send, not expecting a response. It was the middle of the night. She probably would not even see it for days. My phone rang 40 minutes later. Is this Catalina? A woman's voice asked. Yes. Is this Janet? It is. And you are right. Derek destroyed my career exactly like he is destroying yours. Tell me everything. I spent the next hour pouring out the whole story. When I finished, Janet was quiet for a long moment. It is the same pattern, she finally said. Identical. He stole my project, erased my contributions, set me up to look incompetent, then accused me of sabotage when I tried to fight back. What happened to you? I fought as hard as I could. But he had covered his tracks perfectly. Eventually they made it clear I had 2 choices. Resign with a severance package and sign an NDA, or be fired for cause with nothing and potentially face legal charges. I took the severance. I signed the NDA. I left town and tried to rebuild my career. It took me a year to find another job because he had poisoned my reputation in the industry. Her voice broke slightly. But here's what you need to know. I kept everything. Every document, every email, every note. And after I left, I did some research. Derek has done this before, multiple times. To who? A woman named Amanda, 3 years before me. And before her, a woman named Nicole about 5 years ago. Same pattern every time. He targets brilliant women, steals their work, pushes them out when they become threats to his advancement. Do they still work there? Amanda is in Seattle now. Nicole moved overseas to London. But I found them both, and we have all stayed in touch. We all kept our evidence. We all signed NDAs and settlement agreements. But we have been waiting for the right moment to speak up. Why have you not come forward? Because we are terrified, Janet said bluntly. The NDAs have serious penalties. If we violate them, the company can sue us for damages. We could lose everything. But if you are willing to fight, if you have even a shred of evidence they have not destroyed, we might have a chance. I found myself crying. I do not have much. An old USB file. Notes. Memories. It might be enough. Combined with our testimonies and evidence, we might be able to establish a pattern. Send me everything you have. I will reach out to Amanda and Nicole. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, feeling the first flicker of hope I had felt in weeks. Maybe I was not alone. Maybe there was a way to fight back. But I also knew the truth. Derek had the company, the lawyers, the power. Even with 3 other witnesses, even with their evidence, we might still lose. And if we lost, all 4 of us would be destroyed. I also realized something else. The algorithm failure might not have been sabotage at all. Derek did not fully understand my work. He likely had tried to simplify or modify something he did not comprehend, causing the failure. But blaming me was easier than admitting his own incompetence. The next morning, I received responses from both Amanda and Nicole through Janet's connections. Amanda sent me her documentation, showing the same pattern Derek had used on her. Nicole, working in London, sent a written testimony describing her experience. But all 3 women had the same warning. If they testified publicly, if they helped me in any official capacity, the company would sue them for violating their NDAs and non-disparagement agreements. I had potential witnesses who could prove Derek's pattern, but using them would destroy their lives. The 72-hour deadline loomed. I had to decide whether to fight a battle I would almost certainly lose or surrender and try to salvage something from the wreckage. With 50 hours left before the company decided whether to press criminal charges, I made a decision. I would fight. I scraped together every dollar I had saved, plus money I borrowed from my parents, and paid for a consultation with an employment attorney. Her name was Carol Brighton. She practiced out of a small office in downtown Austin, and her online reviews praised her as tough, smart, and relentless. I needed all three. Carol was a woman in her mid-50s with sharp eyes and silver hair cut in a no-nonsense style. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, taking occasional notes. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "You have a case, but I need to be honest with you. It is going to be brutal expensive, and there are no guarantees." "Tell me the reality," I said. "Employment law cases take years. We are talking 3 to 5 years minimum before you might see resolution. The costs can easily run $50,000 to $100,000 in legal fees. Even if you win, your career in this industry will likely be damaged simply by association. You will be known as the woman who sued." She paused. "But if you want to fight, I will fight with you. We would file for wrongful termination, theft of intellectual property, hostile work environment, and potentially fraud. We would depose Derek, Andrew, Linda, everyone, get everything on record. What are our chances?" Carol leaned forward. "With Janet, Amanda, and Nicole's testimony, better than most, maybe 50-50. But they would have to be willing to violate their NDAs, which means they would face lawsuits themselves." I told her about the women's fears. "I can offer them indemnification if this goes well, but there is risk." Carol tapped her pen against her notepad. "Here is what I recommend. I take your case on partial contingency. You pay me $10,000 up front for initial filing and discovery work. If we win, I take 30% of any settlement or judgment." I had $8,000 in savings. I called my parents that night. They loaned me the remaining $2,000 without hesitation. On Friday morning, exactly 71 hours after my suspension began, Carol filed the lawsuit. The company's response was swift and vicious. I woke up Monday morning to a sheriff at my door. I was being served with a temporary restraining order. Derek had filed it over the weekend, claiming I had been harassing and threatening him. The evidence consisted of emails and text messages, where I had confronted him about stealing my work. Taken out of context, my legitimate complaints could be twisted to sound aggressive, even threatening. The restraining order barred me from coming within 500 feet of Derek, the office building, or contacting any current employees. Violation meant arrest. Carol called me an hour later. "They are trying to isolate you and make you look unstable. This is standard intimidation." "It is working," I admitted. That same afternoon, the company filed their countersuit. They were suing me for breach of employment agreement, theft of proprietary information based on that USB file I had saved, defamation for my HR complaints, and tortious interference with business relationships. They were claiming $2 million in damages. The client loss, plus reputational harm. I stared at the legal documents, feeling my world collapse. $2 million. I would never recover from that debt. My entire life would be destroyed. Carol's voice was steady when we spoke. "This is an intimidation tactic. They know you do not have $2 million. They are trying to scare you into dropping your suit." "I am terrified," I whispered. "I know, but we do not back down. Not yet." The next weeks were a nightmare. Word of the lawsuit spread through the tech industry. My LinkedIn profile, which had been getting steady recruiter views, suddenly went quiet. Job applications I had submitted were withdrawn. Interviews that had been scheduled were mysteriously canceled. I checked Glassdoor and found anonymous reviews that had to be about me. "Worked with Catalina." She took credit for others' work and became hostile when confronted. Total nightmare colleague. I could not prove Derek's team had written them, but the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Sarah sent me one final text. "I am so sorry. They made me sign a statement against you. They said if I refused, I would be terminated for insubordination. I had no choice. Please understand." I understood. Fear made people do things they never thought they would do. My rent came due. With no paycheck and mounting legal fees, I could not pay it. I picked up gig economy work, rideshare driving, dog walking, grocery delivery, jobs that required no background checks, no references, no questions. I went from a promising tech professional to scrambling for survival in less than 2 months. The deposition was scheduled for the first week of December. Carol prepared me extensively, but nothing could really prepare me for sitting across from Derek and 4 company lawyers for 7 hours. They tore into me with surgical precision. Every moment of my career, every decision, every word was examined and twisted. Is it not true, Derek's lead attorney asked, that you resented Derek's promotion? I thought I deserved it too, I answered carefully. So you were jealous? I was disappointed. The attorney smiled. Is it not true that you have a history of blaming others when you fail to meet expectations? No. They produced a performance review from 5 years ago at my previous company. A single negative review where I had missed a deadline during a family emergency. They presented it as evidence of a pattern of incompetence. Have you sought counseling for anger management? The attorney asked. No, because I do not have anger management issues. Are you currently taking any psychiatric medications? Carol objected, but in depositions the scope is wide. I had to answer. No. Have you ever been diagnosed with any personality disorders? The questions felt designed to humiliate me, to make me seem unstable. Derek sat across from me the entire time, his expression carefully arranged in fake sympathy. I tried to mentor her, he said, when it was his turn to speak. I truly did. But some people are not willing to put in the work. They want recognition without earning it. This whole situation is heartbreaking. By the time the deposition ended, I felt stripped bare. 2 days later, the company made a settlement offer. Carol read it to me over the phone. They will drop the countersuit. You drop your lawsuit. You sign an NDA, a non-compete agreement preventing you from working in supply chain technology for 3 years, and a non-disparagement agreement. You make a public statement saying the allegations were based on misunderstandings. They give you $25,000 severance. That is a terrible deal, I said. It is insulting, Carol agreed. The non-compete alone would kill your career in your specialty. But if we go to trial, you could lose everything and end up with a judgment against you. I have seen companies bury people in legal fees until they file bankruptcy. I had 72 hours to decide. I could not eat, could not sleep. I read the settlement terms until the words blurred. I would essentially be signing away my career, my truth, my future. But the alternative was potential financial annihilation. At 2 in the morning on the second night, I found myself scrolling LinkedIn, unable to sleep. That is when I saw the company announcement. We are thrilled to welcome our new senior data scientist, Dr. Rachel Morrison. Rachel brings cutting-edge expertise in AI optimization and supply chain innovation. We cannot wait to see what she accomplishes here. I clicked on Rachel's profile. PhD from Stanford. Revolutionary research in artificial intelligence applications for logistics. Publications in top journals. Brilliant, accomplished, 31 years old. My blood went cold. I knew exactly what Derek was planning. Rachel was his next target. I checked the company org chart update from that same day. Rachel Morrison reports to Derek Chen, VP of Innovation. He was going to do to her exactly what he had done to me, and to Janet, and to Amanda, and to Nicole. I pulled up Rachel's Stanford faculty page and found her personal academic email. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I drafted a message. Dr. Morrison, you do not know me, but I used to work at your new company. Your supervisor, Derek, will steal your work. He has done this to multiple women. Please protect yourself. I am attaching documentation. I attached everything. My evidence, Janet's testimony, Amanda's documentation, Nicole's statement. My finger moved toward the send button, then stopped. The restraining order. Rachel was now a current employee. If I contacted her, I would be violating the order. Derek could have me arrested. The company lawyers would use it as proof I was unstable and harassing people. My legal case would be destroyed entirely. But if I did not warn her, Rachel would become another victim. Another brilliant woman whose career would be destroyed by Derek's theft and manipulation. I sat there for 2 hours staring at that draft email. Carol had told me, "You cannot save everyone. Save yourself." My mother had said, "Baby, you have fought so hard. It is okay to stop fighting." But I kept thinking, if someone had warned me, would things have been different? If Janet or Amanda or Nicole had somehow reached out before I started, could I have protected myself? I made my decision, the one that felt right even if it destroyed me. I hit send. I sent the email to Rachel at 6 in the morning. By 8, there were police at my door. "Ma'am, you need to come with us," the officer said. "You have violated a restraining order." "I know," I said quietly. "I knew I would." They handcuffed me, put me in the back of a patrol car. Neighbors watched from their windows. I was processed at county jail, fingerprinted, photographed, given an orange jumpsuit, placed in a holding cell with 3 other women. I sat on the metal bench, my back against the cold concrete wall, and wondered if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life or the only choice I could live with. Bail hearing was not until the next morning. I spent 18 hours in that cell. One of my cellmates, a woman named Maria, asked what I was in for. "I warned someone about a predator," I said. She nodded like that made perfect sense. Sometimes doing the right thing gets you locked up. Carol arranged bail the next morning. $5,000. The bondsman required $500 cash. My mother paid it, her face tight with worry. "What were you thinking?" Carol demanded, once we were in her car. That another woman deserved to know what she was walking into. Carol's hands gripped the steering wheel. "You just destroyed your case. The judge will see you as someone who cannot follow court orders. The company will use this to prove every claim they made about you being unstable and vindictive. Do you understand what you have done?" "Yes," I said. "And I would do it again." An emergency hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. The company's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss my lawsuit with prejudice, arguing I had demonstrated continued harassment and inability to accept responsibility. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s. She reviewed the facts. Catalina had contacted a company employee after being explicitly ordered not to. No matter my intentions, I had violated a clear court order. "Your lawsuit is dismissed," the judge said. "You cannot refile. The company's countersuit remains active." Just like that, I lost. Everything I had fought for gone. The company was now demanding $3 million in damages, increased from $2 million. They added claims for Rachel's psychological distress from receiving my threatening email. Carol met me outside the courthouse. "I am sorry," she said. "There is nothing more I can do for you at this point. You will need a criminal defense attorney for the restraining order violation charge." More legal fees I could not afford. More lawyers. More humiliation. The settlement offer was off the table. They were going for complete destruction now. That night, I found an eviction notice on my door. 3 months behind on rent. I had 14 days to vacate. My unemployment claim had been denied, terminated for cause. My credit cards were maxed from legal fees. I sat on my apartment floor, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, and thought about giving up. Really giving up. Just signing whatever papers they put in front of me, declaring bankruptcy, moving back to my parents' house in Nebraska, finding a job, waiting tables, or working retail, leaving the tech industry forever. Maybe Derek had won. Maybe some battles were not worth fighting. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer. "Is this Catalina?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is Rachel Morrison, the woman you emailed. I need to meet with you. Today. It is urgent." "I cannot," I said. "There is a restraining order. If I am seen with you, I will be arrested again." "I know. Meet me at the coffee shop on 6th Street in 1 hour. I will make sure we are not seen." "Why would you help me? You do not even know me. Just trust me." 1 hour. I should not have gone. It was risky, possibly stupid, but I went anyway. Rachel was waiting in a back corner booth, her back to the wall, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. She looked nothing like her professional photos. I slid into the seat across from her. If we are caught together, I go back to jail. We will not be caught, she said. And I needed to thank you in person. Thank me for what? Rachel pulled out her tablet, for confirming everything my mother suspected. Your mother. My full name is Dr. Rachel Morrison-Chen. My mother is Patricia Chen. I stared at her. Patricia Chen, one of the 3 investors at Derek's pitch, one of the most successful venture capitalists in Texas. My mother is the majority shareholder in your former company, Rachel continued. She controls 45% of the voting shares, and she has been watching Derek for the past 6 months. Why? Because brilliant men do not suddenly develop revolutionary algorithms overnight. When Derek pitched that sustainable supply chain project, my mother recognized immediately that the thinking was too sophisticated, too innovative for his background and skill set. She started investigating. Rachel pulled up documents on her tablet. She found patterns. High female turnover in Derek's department. Multiple settlements and NDAs. Whispered rumors in the industry about women who left suddenly after working under him. I felt like I could not breathe. Your mother knows, she suspected. But she needed proof of active predatory behavior, so she sent me in. You are undercover. Rachel nodded. I am a real data scientist. My credentials are legitimate, but I am also here to gather evidence. I have been documenting everything for 3 weeks. His management style, his interactions with female employees, his knowledge gaps in technical discussions. Your email gave me the final pieces I needed, Rachel said. Janet Amanda Nicole. 3 witnesses with documentation showing a pattern spanning years. Combined with my observations and the evidence my mother has been gathering, we have enough. Enough for what? To take him down. My mother is calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow at 10 in the morning. She has enough votes for quorum without CEO Andrew's allies. First agenda item, leadership review of Derek and Andrew. Second item, restoration of stolen intellectual property to rightful creators. Third item, civil action against Derek for fraud. My hands were shaking. This could still fail. Derek still has Andrew's protection. The board might not vote your way. Rachel's expression was fierce. My mother did not build a venture capital empire by losing fights. She has every board member's voting history, every financial connection, every piece of leverage. She knows exactly how this will play out. She leaned forward. We want you there, Catalina. We need you there to present your original work, to tell your story to the board. This is your chance to take back everything he stole. I have a restraining order. I cannot go within 500 feet of Derek. The restraining order is being dissolved at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. My mother's lawyers are filing an emergency motion tonight showing it was filed in bad faith as a litigation tactic. The judge who granted it is being presented with evidence of Derek's pattern of using legal mechanisms to silence victims. But what if this does not work? What if it makes everything worse? Rachel's voice was quiet. It might. Derek will fight viciously. He has everything to lose. But my mother is offering you something, a real chance at justice. Not a guarantee, but a chance. I sat there in that coffee shop, this stranger offering me hope when I had none left, and I realized something. I had already lost everything. My job, my reputation, my savings, my apartment. What did I have left to lose? My dignity, my truth, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to stop Derek from destroying another woman. I will be there, I said. The settlement deadline had been 9 o'clock that morning. At 6 before the sun rose, I had sent that email to Rachel. By 7, I was arrested. Now it was the next day, and I was standing outside the office building. I had been barred from entering wearing the only professional outfit I still owned that was not wrinkled. The restraining order had been dissolved at 8, exactly as Rachel promised. The judge had reviewed evidence showing Derek filed it specifically to prevent me from participating in legal proceedings constituting an abuse of the court system. But the damage was done. My lawsuit was still dismissed. The company's countersuit was still active. I had a criminal record now, an arrest for violating a restraining order. Rachel met me in the parking garage. You ready? No, I admitted. Good. People who feel ready are usually overconfident. We walked to the elevator together. I had not been in this building in over a month. Everything looked the same. The modern lobby, the abstract art on the walls, the reception desk where Kimberly used to greet me every morning. Kimberly did a double take when she saw me. "Catalina, are you supposed to be here?" "She is with me," Rachel said firmly. "We have a board meeting." We rode the elevator to the top floor in silence. My heart hammered against my ribs. The boardroom was at the end of the hall. Through the glass walls I could see people already gathering. Derek was there, CEO Andrew, Linda, from HR, board members I recognized from company photos. And at the head of the table a woman I had only seen briefly in that first pitch meeting. Patricia Chen was in her 60s, with silver hair cut in a sharp bob. She wore a navy suit and pearls. Her expression was calm, almost serene. She looked like someone's elegant grandmother, but her eyes were calculating, intelligent, and utterly cold. Derek's face when I walked in was priceless. Shock, then rage, then barely concealed panic. "What is she doing here?" he demanded. "She is not authorized." "I authorized it," Patricia said, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Please sit down, Derek." Patricia, Andrew began, "This is highly irregular. We have protocols for board meetings." Patricia looked at him. "Andrew, I have called this emergency meeting as the majority shareholder. I have proxies from board members Richard and Susan who could not attend in person. That gives me quorum. This meeting is proceeding with or without your cooperation." She gestured to the empty chairs. "Everyone, please sit." I sat between Rachel and Carol, who had arrived minutes before. Across from me, Derek was whispering urgently to Andrew. Patricia tapped her tablet, and the room's main screen came alive. "Let me begin by explaining why we are here. For the past 6 months, I have been concerned about irregularities in our innovation division. Specifically, the pattern of high-performing female employees suddenly departing under suspicious circumstances." She pulled up a slide showing employment data. In the 5 years since Derek became a supervisor, 12 women have left his department. All were rated as high performers. All left within months of major project completions. All signed NDAs and settlement agreements. "That is not unusual in tech," Andrew said. "People change jobs frequently." Patricia smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "True. But when I examined the pattern more closely, I found something interesting. Each of these women claimed before signing their NDAs that Derek had stolen their work, taken credit for their innovations, then systematically pushed them out when they objected. "That is absurd," Derek said. "Those were disgruntled employees making excuses for poor performance." Patricia clicked to the next slide. "My firm has spent considerable resources over the past months recovering data that was thought to be deleted or destroyed. Time-stamped files, backup logs, email metadata. What we found was illuminating. The screen filled with file information, original creation dates, author histories, digital forensic data showing systematic alterations to authorship and timestamps. This," Patricia said, pointing to the screen, "is Catalina's sustainable supply chain algorithm. The original files show she created it, developed it, and refined it over 6 months. These files show Derek copying her work, resaving it under his credentials, and methodically altering the digital trail." She clicked again. "Here are similar patterns for projects attributed to Derek involving Janet Thompson, Amanda Rodriguez, and Nicole Hart." The board members were leaning forward now, studying the data. Derek stood up. "This is a witch hunt. You are relying on testimony from women who were fired for cause who have axes to grind." "Sit down," Patricia said quietly. The words carried absolute authority. "Derek Saturday," Patricia continued. "I then had my daughter, Dr. Rachel Morrison, join the company in an observational capacity. Rachel has a PhD in the exact field Derek claims expertise in. She was positioned to evaluate his technical knowledge firsthand." Rachel stood. "In 3 weeks of working under Derek, I have observed the following. He does not understand the fundamental principles of the algorithms he claims to have created. When asked technical questions, he deflects or provides vague business speak. He has attempted to assign me work that would position him to take credit for it later, using the exact same pattern Catalina and others described. She pulled out a small recording device. I have also recorded with one-party consent legal under Texas law several conversations where Derek explicitly discussed strategies for taking credit for subordinates' work. Derek's face had gone pale. Patricia pressed a button, and Derek's voice filled the room. This was from last week. The key is making sure they do not have evidence, Derek's recorded voice said. You control the file systems, you control the narrative. By the time they figure out what happened, they are already discredited. Who was he talking to? One board member asked. A junior manager. He was apparently mentoring in these techniques, Rachel said. We have multiple recordings. Andrew stood up. Patricia, even if some of these allegations have merit, this is an internal HR matter. We can address it through proper channels. Patricia's expression hardened. Andrew, I have also found evidence that you were aware of at least 3 formal complaints against Derek over the past 4 years. Complaints that were buried or minimized. You have protected him repeatedly, despite clear documentation of misconduct. She pulled up emails. Correspondence between Andrew and Derek discussing how to handle difficult employees. Messages that showed Andrew coaching Derek on how to build documentation against women who complained. The room was dead silent. Patricia stood. I am calling for an immediate vote. First motion, suspension of Derek pending a full independent investigation into intellectual property theft, fraud, and workplace harassment. She looked around the table. All in favor. Hands went up. 1, 2, 3, 4. A majority. Motion carries, Patricia said. Derek, you are suspended effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Derek's face twisted with rage. You cannot do this. Andrew, tell them. Andrew was staring at his own hands. Second motion, Patricia continued. Leadership review of CEO Andrew for gross negligence in his fiduciary duties and complicity in creating a hostile work environment. All in favor. Again, the hands went up. Andrew stood slowly. I resign effective immediately. That will not protect you from legal liability, Patricia said. But it is noted. Security arrived. 2 guards flanked Derek. As they led him toward the door, he looked back at me with pure hatred. You will regret this, he said. Patricia stepped between us. No, Derek. You will regret underestimating her. The door closed behind him. Patricia turned to me. Catalina, the board would like to formally apologize for what you endured. We are offering you full restoration of credit for your work financial compensation for the theft of your intellectual property and the position of Director of Sustainable Solutions. Derek's team will report to you. We will also issue a public apology and clear your name in the industry. I could not speak, could not process what had just happened. We need you, Patricia continued. The algorithm Derek launched is still broken. Can you fix it? Yes, I managed to say. If I can access the original files. You have full access as of this moment. Patricia gestured to the laptop on the table. Everything you created is still there. We recovered it all. I opened the laptop with shaking hands. And there they were. My files, my work, my 6 months of late nights and weekend research. All of it restored. Over the next weeks, I fixed the algorithm. The client's confidence was restored. The company's reputation began to recover. Patricia became my mentor, teaching me how to navigate corporate power structures, how to protect myself and others, how to recognize and counter predatory behavior. Janet, Amanda, and Nicole all received settlements and public vindication. The company implemented new whistleblower protections and independent oversight of intellectual property attribution. Derek was charged with fraud and computer crimes. His career was over. Andrew quietly settled and disappeared from the tech industry. 6 months after that boardroom confrontation, I stood in front of a different conference room looking at a presentation screen that had my name on every single slide. This time, I was the one presenting. My sustainable supply chain algorithm, revised and improved, was being pitched to a new round of investors. Patricia sat in the back row, giving me an encouraging nod. The presentation went flawlessly. The investors were impressed. One of them, a woman in her 40s, approached me afterward. "This is brilliant work," she said. "Where did you develop this approach?" "I built it over 2 years," I told her. "It took a lot of late nights and a lot of fighting to keep it." She nodded knowingly. "I have heard your story. What happened to you? I am glad you won." "So am I," I said. "Though I am not sure I would call it winning, more like surviving." "Sometimes that is the same thing," she replied. That evening I met Patricia for coffee. She had become more than a mentor. She had become a friend. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Strange," I admitted. "I spent so long fighting just to keep my head above water. Now that things are stable, I almost do not know what to do with myself." Patricia smiled. "You help the next person. That is what you do." She was right. I had started mentoring young women entering the tech industry, teaching them to document their work, to protect their intellectual property, to build networks of support. I told them my story not as a warning, but as a roadmap. This is what predatory behavior looks like, I would say. This is how systems protect power instead of people. And this is how you fight back, even when it seems impossible. One of my mentees, a brilliant programmer named Emma, asked me once, "Were you scared the whole time?" "Terrified," I told her. "Every single day. But you kept fighting anyway." I paused, thinking about that question. About the moment I sent that email to Rachel, knowing it would probably destroy me. About sitting in that jail cell, wondering if I had made a catastrophic mistake. "Here is what I learned," I finally said. "The system is designed to make you feel like fighting back is impossible. That is the whole point. They want you isolated, terrified, convinced you will lose. Because, as long as you believe that they have already won. But the truth is, injustice only survives in silence and isolation. The moment you reach out, the moment you tell your story, the moment you warn the next person, you begin to break their power. Not all at once. Not easily. But you begin." Emma wrote that down in her notebook. I thought about Janet, Amanda, and Nicole. How they had kept their evidence for years, waiting for the chance to speak. How my desperate warning to Rachel had connected all of us, had given Patricia the final pieces she needed to act. None of us could have won alone. But together we were stronger than Derek's lies, stronger than the company's legal intimidation, stronger than the system designed to protect predators. I also thought about the cost. The months of terror and humiliation. The arrest record I would carry forever. The savings I had lost, the job I had been forced to leave, the nights I had spent sobbing on my bathroom floor. Was it worth it? I looked at Emma, the young woman, who would face her own challenges in this industry, who would encounter her own Dereks, her own systems designed to silence her. Yes, I told her. It was worth it. Because here is what I know now. Some victories take longer than others. Some battles cost more than you ever imagined paying. But truth has a stubborn way of surviving even when everything is designed to bury it. And sometimes in your darkest moment, when you are about to lose everything, someone you did not even know was watching steps in and says, "I see what happened. I believe you. Let me help you fight." That is what Patricia did for me. That is what Rachel risked for me. That is what I am trying to do for the women coming after me. 3 months ago, I received a letter from a woman I had never met. Her name was Sophia, and she worked at a different tech company in California. She had read about my case in the news. The letter said, "Your story gave me the courage to report my supervisor for stealing my work. I thought I was alone. I thought no one would believe me. But you showed me it was possible to fight back and win. Thank you for not staying silent." I cried when I read that letter. Because that, more than the job title or the restored credit or the settlement money, that was the real victory. Breaking the silence. Giving someone else permission to fight. The tech industry still has a long way to go. There are still Dereks out there, still systems designed to protect power instead of justice. But there are also more women speaking up, more allies stepping forward, more companies being forced to change. Change does not happen because one person wins one battle. It happens because each person who fights makes it a little easier for the next person. Each story told makes it harder for predators to hide. Each woman who refuses to sign an NDA, who refuses to stay silent, who warns the next victim, chips away at the foundation of injustice. Last week I spoke at a conference for women in technology. After my talk, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 24, fresh out of college, full of excitement about her new job. "I am so glad nothing like that will ever happen to me," she said. "Things are so much better now." I did not want to discourage her, but I also could not let her believe that. "Things are better," I told her, "but they are not fixed. You still need to protect yourself, document your work, build your network, watch for warning signs, and if something happens, do not stay silent. Reach out. There are people who will believe you and help you." She nodded, and I saw her optimism dim slightly. But that was okay. Better to be prepared than naive. Patricia joined me on stage at the end of the conference. Someone asked her why she had risked so much to help me. "I did not do it just for Catalina," Patricia said. "I did it because I have a daughter. I have nieces. I have young women I mentor. And I am tired of watching brilliant women be destroyed by mediocre men who steal their work. At some point you have to stop accepting injustice as the cost of doing business and start fighting back." The audience applauded, but Patricia held up her hand. "But here is what I want you all to understand. I had power. I had resources. I had the leverage to make that fight. Most of you will not have that, and that is exactly why you need each other. Build networks. Support one another. Believe women when they tell you something is wrong. Be willing to take risks to protect each other, because solidarity is the only thing stronger than institutional power." Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything that happened, I realize the most important lesson was not about fighting or winning. It was about connection. Derek's power came from isolation. Every woman he targeted felt alone, felt like she was the only one, felt like no one would believe her. And as long as we stayed isolated, he could pick us off one by one. But the moment Janet, Amanda, Nicole, and I connected, his power began to crumble. The moment Rachel and Patricia joined our fight, the outcome became inevitable. Injustice thrives in darkness. Justice requires light witnesses, people willing to stand up and say, "I see what you are doing, and I will not be silent." So if you are reading this, if you are facing something similar, here is what I want you to know. You are not alone. Even when it feels like you are not. There are other people who have been through this. There are people who will believe you. There are people who will fight alongside you. Document everything. Keep records, save files, take screenshots, write down dates and times and conversations, because evidence matters even if you do not think you will ever need it. Reach out. Tell someone. Break the silence. It might not work the first time or the second time or the 10th time, but keep reaching out until you find someone who listens. And if you see someone else going through this, be the person who steps up. Be the Janet who keeps her evidence. Be the Rachel who goes undercover to investigate. Be the Patricia who uses her power to protect others. Be the person who breaks the isolation. My story had a happy ending, but I know many do not. I was lucky. Lucky that Patricia was watching. Lucky that Rachel was willing to risk herself. Lucky that Janet, Amanda, and Nicole had kept fighting in their own ways. But luck should not be necessary for justice. We need to build systems where speaking up is safe, where evidence is preserved, where complaints are taken seriously, where patterns are recognized before the 5th or 10th victim, where women do not have to lose everything before anyone believes them. Until we have those systems, we have each other. And that I have learned is more powerful than I ever imagined. So here is my question for you. Have you ever witnessed injustice in your workplace and stayed silent because you were afraid? What would it take for you to speak up? What support would you need? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, if it gave you hope or courage or just made you think, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories like this. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Because every time we share these stories, we make it a little harder for the Dereks of the world to keep getting away with it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of the community that believes in justice, accountability, and protecting each other. I hope you never have to fight the battle I fought. But if you do, I hope you remember that you are not alone, that your voice matters, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to stay silent. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep fighting for what is right.